Welcome to Season 4 of E-commerce Fastlane. This podcast helps resilient entrepreneurs thrive with Shopify. And now, on to episode 148.
You're listening to E-commerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company, powered by Shopify. Listen to real conversations with partners and subject matter experts as they share proven practical strategies, platforms, and the best Shopify apps to help you accelerate your business. The time is now for you to improve efficiencies, grow revenue, profit, and lifetime customer loyalty. Please welcome your host, startup founder and strategic advisor, Steve Hutt.
This episode is brought to you by Yotpo SMS Bump, the leading SMS marketing solution for Shopify brands that are looking to build a top revenue channel. Delivering unbeatable conversions and click-through rates, SMS Bump will help your brand cut through the noise and boost sales. With SMS Bump, you can build powerful remarketing automations to recover abandoned carts or even reactivate customers who haven't shopped in a while. Special thanks to advanced segmentation filters, you can create truly personalized campaigns that will speak to each and every one of your customers, bringing in over 25x ROI. You can engage in one-on-one conversations with customers and give them the personalized experiences and tailored support they crave. What's also great about SMS Bump is their integration with key partners such as Zendesk, Klaviyo, Just Uno, and many more, including Yotpo's other solutions. Your audience can enjoy an always-on, omni-channel experience on the channel they prefer. It's incredibly easy to download SMS Bump for free and set it up in less than 5 minutes. This is the only text marketing app you will ever need for your Shopify brand. And now, as an E-commerce Fastlane listener, you get a 1-month free trial on their paid plan. So check them out today. Click the link in the show notes, visit the Shopify App Store, or ecommercefastlane.com/SMS Bump and see why over 90,000 other brands choose SMS Bump. Well, hey there, it's Steve, and welcome back to the E-commerce Fastlane podcast. Now, if this is your first time listening, this is an e-commerce show where we have honest and transparent conversations about building and thriving with your store powered by Shopify or Shopify Plus. If you're an ambitious, lifelong learner, then you're in the right place to be. New episodes are available twice weekly with your favorite podcast player like Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, and many more. You can also stream current episodes, including a very relevant back catalog directly from ecommercefastlane.com. Now, in today's episode, my guest is James Hodson, who is the Vice President of Partnerships from a company called Thankful, and that's at thankful.ai. They are a service as a software that helps give every customer access to great customer service. Notable brands including Untuckit, Pure Vita bracelets, MeUndies. Looking at their homepage right now, it's incredible. Blenders Eyewear and Bombas, Morphe brushes. There's a whole pile of Shopify brands that have made the choice to use the Thankful product. And, you know, they really are trusting in their solution, really to offer a lot of, I think we're going to talk about this kind of intelligent automation that's really helping power these businesses, a lot of these leading like world-class customer service of these brands. So it's really exciting. So let's jump in and learn more about this great solution. So hi, James. Welcome to E-commerce Fastlane.
Hi, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Now, I probably hack it up a bit at the top of the show about what exactly Thankful does. I happen to do a lot of app audits and some of the brands that I manage, and I know that there's been a little bit of buzz in social media about the Thankful product and kind of really how it's helping brands scale their customer support. You know, it doesn't have to be a painful kind of add-on. It's really all part of the customer experience. And so I heard about Thankful and I said, no, I've got to get this show recorded and I got to share this out to a wider audience, that it doesn't have to be just these big brands. It really can be for a lot of different Shopify brands. And so maybe you can talk about the problems that the platform is solving for brands and store owners.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we set out and started building the technology, everyone listening knows, there's probably few things worse than waiting on a customer service resolution to a problem you're experiencing as a customer. And the simpler the problem you think, the quicker you feel it should be answered. And so Thankful helps resolve problems for customers really quickly and efficiently. We're solving for a lot of that pain and sorrow and desperation that customers feel when they're forced to interact with the antiquated old customer service tools that are in the market right now.
Yeah, I've noticed, like, I'll give an example that I see quite often. Like I said, I have quite a large book of business that I manage. Some of the complaints that I see that maybe Thankful can help with this sort of problem is that whenever there's an unhappy customer, they tend to send an email first. Hey, it's been 10 days. Where's my order? Yes, I have a tracking number, but I don't know where it is. And then they're not getting a fast enough response. So next thing you know, they're trying to call, but then that's not working, and or it goes to voicemail. And next thing you know, they're on social media. They're DMing you and messaging you, and they're doing lots of craziness. And all of a sudden, it turns out to be a much larger problem because with all these different touch points, and it's all just the same issue. And trying to resolve that through automation, I think, is the key, is almost intelligently understanding, like, what exactly does this person need, this customer? Like, what's the problem they're experiencing? Or what's the self-serve solution that can easily push them off to a link for returns and exchanges and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I have you on the show today. So I'm hoping to dig deeper into that. Before we jump even further into that, I'd love to understand a little bit about, I guess, the founder's journey, because it kind of fascinates me a little bit about, why people build what they build. So are you able to talk a little bit about who the founders are and what you believe is kind of uniquely, I guess, positioning them to have the desire and the expertise to even want to create this platform?
So Ted Maiko is co-founder and CEO of Thankful. He doesn't have your traditional route of being a SaaS founder. We actually joke he might even be the least likely SaaS founder. He's been kind of at the forefront of digital disruption for the last 25 years, but his career was really built in the music industry, working at Capitol Records and Interscope. And working with Ted, he has some amazing stories of his time he spent working with Keith Richards and Bowie and Rolling Stones and Peter Gabriel. But what he was doing with them is he was helping the music industry create this new digital economy for music. Then became EVP at Interscope, where he was part of the four-man team that launched Beats by Dre, brand that everybody knows. And then he became COO of a computer vision company. So he's always been on the tech side. And one of the interesting things and kind of how we all got connected is Ted was doing a bunch of consulting for different AI companies. My previous company, Retention Science, being one of those where I first met Ted. And that is how Ted met our other co-founder and CTO, Evan Tan. Evan was working at building an AI wine assistant technology at the time. So we kind of all were in this space together, but things didn't come together until there was some real pain. And, pain is kind of the catalyst for all business growth. And Ted kind of happened to be in the right place at the right time. Because he was consulting with all these AI companies, he had a real understanding of what technology could achieve. But he was going through in his personal life kind of this 2 weeks of hell, he calls it, with different customer service departments. He was working with like Blue Cross, Spectrum, United Airlines, and a couple e-commerce companies. And he was just stuck in this customer service purgatory for about 2 weeks. And he couldn't believe that these great companies were forcing their customers down this path with incompetent chatbots where you type something in, the bot would get it wrong. Hey, I'm having trouble tracking my order. The bot sends back a link to an FAQ page on the website, and you type back, no, I'm having trouble tracking my order because I never got the tracking link. So it was 2 weeks where his entire life was consumed by this nonsense of customer service. And he had super high expectations, just like we all do, of what technology could deliver. And if anything else, these businesses had really high quality products, so he expected really high caliber customer service out of them. But you were kind of forced in this world of, hey, you can wait a couple weeks for a correct answer from an expert, or you can get an instant answer that's incorrect. So the epiphany came during that kind of period where there was so much kind of frustration in his own life where he knew that technology always wins, agility always wins. So he called up Evan, kind of did check in on this AI assistant wine piece of technology that Evan was building. And he let him know about this kind of horrible 2 weeks that he's been having and see if Evan might be interested in building AI specifically for customer service. And what I think Ted and Evan have like a superpower or their unique ability is that they can both see 5 or 10 years into the future with perfect vision. And so we know that AI for customer service is coming with or without Thankful. We just kind of want to approach it from the customer's perspective. How can we solve these pains from the perspective of our customer's customer? Because we want to save others from that horrible experience that Ted had to go through. And we actually kind of came across this interesting stat with Forbes where each one of us will waste about 43 days interacting with customer service. That's 6 weeks, 6 weeks of your life in customer service purgatory. And so hopefully Thankful can give you back as much of that precious time as possible so you can spend it with your family, you can spend it building your e-com company, or you can spend it on the beach in Bali. Whatever you guys want to do, go for it. And that's kind of how the idea for Thankful was born.
Yeah, love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's always nice to just to get some context around it because, I really believe that, successful SaaS companies like B2B companies that are helping these commerce brands, I really believe that they're building products based out of their own need. And that's obviously what happened here a little bit was their own frustrations in the marketplace. And there has to be a better way, but then having a lot of the skill sets in AI to kind of understand how it should be, not how it currently is. And I have a lot of case studies too that and give personal experiences of, hey, I always tell brands, I say, hey, at a bare minimum, you have to have live chat on your website. There has to be a pulse of some sort because if not, it appears like there's nobody there. And we're trying to build customer experience. So the next thing is, okay, well, it's costly to have the human capital cost of manning live chat, especially as a growing or scaling brand. There could be, 10, 20 seats of people answering, hundreds of live chats. That gets really challenging too. But then the next part of the conversation comes up and says, okay, well then how about a chatbot? And exactly the problems that you just talked about a moment ago is exactly what unfortunately, the way a lot of other solutions, they have, a tree structure and some links to certain things and, or like a flow chart of if they say this and do this and that. And that's fine to maybe some basic use cases, but I think you'd be really surprised about what the real use cases actually are and what people are actually asking. And I think that's where the challenge starts coming in, where you're right, you get into this purgatory of just going around and around in circles. And I've done it where I've typed things in there. I know it's a bot, has a little icon. It very clearly shows that it's a bot, but I'm trying to find some information, or I'm trying to find do you ship to Canada? It's all I'm asking, but they're just unable to give that answer. And so I'm really hoping that that's where Thankful is kind of fitting in. I believe it's kind of an add-on to an existing CRM. I don't think we're replacing that, but at least it's I guess it's almost the first point of contact when someone hits the website is the Thankful solution is the one that's kind of reveals itself on the website.
Right. If we can help kind of usher in that customer with some intelligence on top of the help center and offer up that 24/7 support, that's a great thing. At 2:00 in the morning, you don't have to be manning the chat on your website. You can keep that pulse going.
Now, what about the customer service in general? Do you believe there's opportunities today? Some people can't afford the human capital component of having live chat manned. And then there's the outsourced component, which is, certainly costly too, but then there is your solution. So I just would love to understand a little more about maybe what the opportunities are for Shopify brands, maybe in today's climate to improve their customer service.
Sure. And you don't have to use Thankful for all these things that we would talk about. I generally think, service is the last thing that a company thinks about. It's often the messiest, it's often the oldest, and it's often perceived to drive no revenue. And we're starting to see revolution in that whole concept. We're starting to see service being, the main differentiator, the defining characteristic of a brand. Because a lot of these e-commerce companies are selling similar products at similar prices. So it's service where you can potentially win. And that expectation gap of what service is being delivered is widening. And this movement's happening with or without Thankful. We're starting to see brands think of marketing, customer retention, and service as one whole unit. And we're seeing that because you're starting to see the rise of the CXO title, the Chief Experience Officer. As user experience quickly becomes that key differentiator, The CXO is now in charge of the whole customer experience, bringing it together, designing the strategy, deploying and executing it. So I think there's a lot of opportunity within service. And my personal view is, attention, a customer's attention is something that we all fight for so much. And it's such a scarce resource that the customer service department is getting a lot of attention from your existing customers. So you might as well have that be the best possible place for your best possible, brand experience.
What's interesting too is that, when you add a CRM, because there's some great CRMs out there that connect to Shopify. I think even recently I had on Gorgias on for the second time, and they're quite a popular CRM. How do these two work together? Because I think one thing for people listening today is they sometimes they get a little bit antsy because they have an existing tech stack that they're happy with. So how does Thankful, let's say, and Gorgias kind of work together, as a union?
So we can integrate with any existing help desk, and definitely agree. It would be a huge, huge task to rip out a tech stack to replace it. Our kind of thought when we started building the product is we interviewed a bunch of brands and asked, what would be helpful for them. And their response was, hey, can you build a better mousetrap? And we kind of quickly abandoned that idea. And we started to think about it from the customer perspective and what do the customers want? And so when we started to think about where are the customers living, you mentioned Instagram early on, they are DMing brands over Instagram, SMS, chat, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger. They're in all these places. And so when we come back to these brands, we say, hey, we designed this solution that's an AI agent inside of your help desk. It's right alongside your human agents. It can answer all the tedious, repetitive requests that you can get, and we can train it to answer anything you want. When we tell brands about this, they're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I didn't know that was possible. Yeah, I really want that.
I'd argue that AI is a pretty hot topic. I mean, maybe even a buzzword, I think, in today's climate right now. And, so let's maybe dig into that side of this conversation about, how can customer service departments maybe apply some of these AI technologies that are available today, and then how can that apply to their Shopify business?
This is my favorite topic to talk about. There is a lot of buzz around it. They need to know that they're doing it, but they don't necessarily know what to do. And I think too many businesses are fearful or have the mindset that it's all or nothing with AI. And the reality is you can kind of incrementally start to automate things and start to use AI. And so at its core, what are machines really, really great at? They're really great at tedious, repetitive tasks. What are humans really bad at? Tedious, repetitive tasks, right? They don't like it at all. We found a stat that CX, representatives spend 90% of their time doing the exact same types of things. And so as a brand, you can think about what are those really common questions that you're getting asked by your customers, and how do you apply automation to it? And so things like track order, do an exchange, send a tracking link are all things that we can start to automate for these brands. And we can let humans continue to do the meaningful, higher quality work that maybe, is a really complex customer service inquiry that needs to be taken care of with some empathy and some thought versus, hey, just check if my order shipped from Shopify.
Now, how do you evaluate the AI? Because I think there are, like I said, this is a buzzword, I believe. From what I understand, I went over to Google right now and just typed in Google Trends, just typed in AI, and it's definitely trending. But I think there's a lot of confusion around it, and I agree with what you're saying too, that it doesn't necessarily have to be an all or nothing methodology, because sometimes I think brands are scared a little bit about having a bot be the only point of contact with a potential customer. They're almost, that was one of the feedback I got from one, fairly large brand in the $20 to $30 million range. They said, you know what, we're scared a little bit. We have 100,000 subscribers on our monthly subscription product we have. So we have a lot of customers. And so knowing that, we don't want to have a bot to take care of these sort of things. We want to have that extra TLC in that layer. That's why we're not having live chat on our website right now, because we're just not sure how to deal with it, because we know that if it's not great, it's not going to enhance our customer experience. So knowing that, This is some of the anxieties of some brands that say, no, I don't want to have this thing running full time and like answering on my behalf because I don't believe it's going to be correct, or it's not trained right or trained by somebody else. And like, cause I think there's nuances to every business. I mean, just because you're knee deep into this stuff, I just love to understand, pick your brain a bit about, maybe give some guidance maybe to how do you evaluate AI, and then how could you apply it towards a business?
AI comes in many different forms. And at its core, I like to see, is the technology learning? Is it solving a problem? And is that being demonstrated by the machine? Because we do see a lot of AI not being actually AI. What we do, it's called deep learning, and the subclassifier is natural language processing. To be honest, I don't really care that much about the term. I care more, does it do the magic trick that we set it up to do? And so we're trying to make sure that we can adapt and take the right actions based off of the right intended meaning from the customer. I think there's a really great example with someone that says, let's take a real life customer order example. If you're just doing it with a bad AI that was maybe just keyword based, and someone said, hey, I'd like to return my jeans for a size larger. And the AI sends back, okay, here's a FAQ page for how to return your order. But the reality is that customer doesn't actually want a return, they want an exchange. But the word exchange never appeared. And so we're training our system with our NLP to understand that the intent of that customer is actually to exchange her current size jean for a larger size jean, and we handle it completely differently. And so we're seeing, an 85% success rate on keyword versus what Thankful is doing. We're seeing a 99.98 success rate. We're getting like 1 in every 1,000 wrong at this point, versus if you're a customer with 100,000 subscribers and they all write in, that'd be wrong 15,000 times.
With this AI then, just so I'm clear, because I think that's the problem though, was like a lot of people, they tend to bundle AI and machine learning. It's kind of talked about as the same thing, but you just were suggesting that it's not, because there's some parts of like, do you understand this natural language processing you said, and then the deep learning part, like, and then training the AI. I guess there's some basics that are part of the framework, but then like I said, every business may have their own nuances. Can you expand a bit on that just to share with the audience, just of like what exactly you mean? Like, so there's AI, there's machine learning, there's deep learning, but then there's the kind of the bot training side of the business.
Yeah. And if anyone has ever purchased an AI-based product and they had to train it themselves, they know how hard that is. Every single one of these Shopify businesses has some nuance and some unique aspect to them. And so we have to train our AI based on that particular business. When we first started out building our system, our wheelhouse was really only 1 or 2 problems that we could solve, and the customer had to type just the right thing for us to get it. Otherwise, we would completely leave that ticket alone because we couldn't understand it. And so there's that kind of network effect of learning that goes in as we see a higher volume of tickets and a higher variety of customer write-ins, we're able to understand more and more. And so that breakthrough kind of aha moment for us was when the AI was able to correctly respond to a customer who had a very complex ticket, and I got that ticket wrong, or Ted looked at the ticket and couldn't understand what the customer was wanting. And that was actually really amazing, and now it can do that in a repetitive fashion. And so that's the training aspect that is so important, where many AI branded, kind of quotation mark companies are just using the buzzword and they're not really taking action. They're not really learning. There's no adaptation going on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just thank for the clarity on that, because I just want to make sure that people realize that, there's a lot of great reasons as to why some of these, as I mentioned at the top of the show, these signature brands, when we're talking about like, Untuckit with, all their retail locations, plus, their international company, Pura Vida and, Blenders and Morphe. I mean, these are massive companies that have made the choice to use your solution because obviously there's a starting point of some basic customer service inquiries that can be automated because the bot understands what needs to happen as the first point of contact. But then I know for a fact that fashion is going to be different maybe than consumer packaged goods, or, looking at Pura Vida bracelets, understanding that, the cosmetic and the brush market is different than the fashion market. And so there's going to be some certain words and languages that are different. And hey, I want to get involved in your affiliate program or your referral program or your creator program. I mean, there's every brand has a different way of how they believe their customers are interacting with their brand. And it sounds like what Thankful is doing today is that we're going to get you set up pretty confident and growing and improving in quality over time. But there are nuances of the brand. And did we get it right or did we get it wrong? Because you'll know how the person is interacting with the bot, if in fact it was correct or not, based on if the ticket was actioned or not, or how the interaction went. And so I think that's quite interesting that that's kind of where we're at today as far as AI is concerned, and how Thankful is working to improve that.
And Pura Vida did, they're one of the most famous Shopify stores. And I think they did an amazing job with one of their Feeding America campaigns. And they did so great at that it spiked their ticket volume like 150%. And so their wait time for a customer to get an answer to their problem went up 2 hours. And so there was no way for them to hire and onboard and train new agents to answer those customer service requests as fast as they needed. And so they deployed Thankful. We started resolving about 30% of the track order requests and then about 50% of the missing package requests. Because we took that off the human agent's plate, that brought their total average resolution time to under 1 hour, which was amazing. They hit a home run, and they were able to kind of continue doing that great marketing, that great Feeding America campaign, and keep up with the same volume of tickets that they've, once they saw the spike. And I think Bombas was a very different use case, but also a very similar result. Their business is set up around their happiness guarantee. And so they offer up free returns with no time limit, which is a wonderful, wonderful policy to have. But they also get a large volume of returns and exchanges. And so it caused a big point of friction in that return process, just because the agents were having to create labels and, ask for return authorization forms. And so Thankful kind of took on the order tracking and the repair requests, which were the easier ones. And so we were able to decrease their total ticket volume, again, because the AI is really just automating the ones that are highly repetitive and easy to go after.
All right, well, let's chat a little bit about maybe more advice now for some brands, because I think, this show has a very diverse range of entrepreneurs that listen each week. I mean, there's some people on the Shopify core plans. There's lots of people listening there on Shopify Plus, different maturities and complexities. But from your vantage point, I just would love, just because I think you have access to a lot of great Shopify brands of all sizes, and I think you probably know what success looks like. And I just would love if you could maybe share some advice. People listening today, they're looking to grow and scale their business. They can appreciate maybe the benefits of AI, having a bot. They're just not sure where to go next. Just would love to hear your feedback about what does success look like? What does great look like today? And how can people go after it?
I'll give you a little setup on how I think about it. Well, I launched my first Shopify store in 2010 selling footwear and grew that to about 2 million in revenue. And so I like to think of kind of the game of e-commerce as one giant math problem. And so if you're selling a product you love, your product is actually really great, and you're probably eager to sell more of that product. And so in the early days, it is really laser focus on that lifetime value and your cost to acquire a customer. And your lifetime value, I think today, should be about 5x your cost to acquire. That should kind of determine about being a healthy business. And if you can do that, you can continue to invest in every other aspect of your business, because the customer expectations continuing to go up. You guys all have to keep up with Amazon, right? Because they're delivering the best experience at the moment. And we're seeing that now leak into service, which is usually the last thing that companies think about. When we were doing Tweak Footwear, we had 40,000 customers. We managed it on an Excel spreadsheet, and we did it within Outlook Messenger to make sure that we at least answered our customers. So that is now kind of shifting from the very back of the mind to the very front of the mind, because customers really want and expect quick responses, and that can help your retention rate. Everybody knows kind of the old, it's 5x more expensive to acquire a new customer than it is to retain an existing one. And so when you have that customer's attention, they're writing into you about where their order is or what size they should get, you should absolutely give them kind of the most love that you possibly can during that time.
The Amazon effect is an interesting conversation, probably for another podcast episode, but it's one of the things that come up quite a bit. And I think that's what motivates a lot of brands to want to improve their customer experience. Because you think of Amazon, you think of speed. Obviously, they've dialed in their delivery, with their Prime membership. It's ridiculous how fast things can come. It's hard to beat Amazon on price. And if they can't beat you on price, they're going to knock you off and sell a cheaper version of it. And then selection. I mean, they're the everything store for a reason. So knowing that those variables are out in the wild, there's speed, there's price, and there's selection. That's just Amazon's superpower. What can you do as a brand? Well, own the customer experience, own the journey, and be fast. Figure out a way of getting it shipped quickly. Figure out a way through Thankful or other tools. Figure out a way of how you're interacting with your customer. It almost appears like it's almost like customer service as a differentiator, because I can't pick up the phone and call Amazon. I can, but they don't care what you're buying, what's your order number, and there's no affinity towards the product. Whereas on the flip side, when you own if you're a digitally native brand and you're a direct-to-consumer brand, you want to own that whole customer journey and that experience, and that's what we're trying to build, and that's the big differentiator versus Amazon. So let's talk about the future for Thankful, because I think you're obviously on your journey right now. You're obviously very successful, but I also believe there's obviously nonstop room for improvement as AI just continues to evolve. So are you able to share maybe some of the North Stars, I guess, for the remainder of 21? But I'm always things like partner alignment or any innovation. I just would like to understand a little more about how you're going to continue to offer value and assistance to Shopify brands.
I'm really excited, and I think I'm so grateful for our early customers that gave us good feedback on how to improve the product or what they were needing. Our North Star is still to give every customer great access to great customer service. We think, no doubt, great service is linked to lifetime value. And so how are we doing that? Through technology. The first step is reinforcing our foundation. We can expand the number of problems that we can solve for customers out of the box. Early days, it was 1 or 2 problems that we could solve: track order, exchange, those kinds of things. Today, out of the box, we can solve about 50 different problems in 100 different languages, and we can train it to do a lot more. And we can do every channel now. So every written channel that a customer is writing in on, we can actually answer, which is very unique and a huge differentiator for us. The second aspect that's a little bit more vision-based is improving reporting and insights for customer service departments. One, customer service departments don't really have any great reporting at the moment. It's still pretty old. But the interesting thing to me is that customers are telling everyone at the brand all the pains and flaws of the business, but it's not getting out of the customer service department. And so we're trying to find ways to get that data out from being buried and siloed in the customer service department, get it more visibility, show it in the appropriate way so that you can start to see trends, in your business. Are your carriers too slow? A lot of great answers. How is your packaging can be found in what your customers are writing in. I'm really interested to see how the reporting side of Thankful goes as we get more data and offer up a better solution to our customers. And then in terms of partner alignment, I think the Shopify ecosystem is extremely important to us. Today, we work with every single help desk. So it doesn't matter if you're on Zendesk, Gladly, Gorgeous. We built integrations to all the great other kind of peripheral solutions that you have. So Order Groove, Recharge, Recurly, Happy Returns, Loop. They are all part of our ecosystem because they're already tools that your customers are interacting with. So we're bringing that all into one house. So I'm really excited over the next 12 to 18 months to see how far we can push this technology to really bring great customer service to every single customer.
And I think it's important to reiterate that you're not here to replace your current help desk. So, I would say that the bulk of Shopify brands are either going to be on Zendesk or Gorgias, or Gladly recently came on board as a Plus Technology partner. I think these are kind of the three biggies. I also like Customer with a K. I think it's quite an interesting little solution they have. But it's nice that you've actually partnered up with the subscription offerings, because with Shopify releasing their subscription APIs November of last year, it's becoming a great native way, through an app to be able to have native subscriptions through Order Groove or Recharge, or even Bold Commerce, for example. And Recurly, I think, is one of the options too. And then obviously the post-purchase experience of returns. I mean, I've had all of these partners on this podcast from Happy Returns recently with these return depots. Quite interesting solution. I think Loop and Returnly are another two great solutions for those to think about. Also, the post-purchase experience of how, and I think you guys will word it on your website, that you want to power this kind of service-first revolution. Well, that's phenomenal, because there's pieces of tech that are required to do that. And it appears to me that Thankful is part of that technology, but you're playing nicely with everybody else. And I think that's super important. So good on you. Really, really exciting. So how can people learn more about the Thankful solution and any kind of, case studies and things like that?
So all of our case studies are available on our website, Pura Vida, Blenders, MeUndies, Bombas, and we have a handful more coming. Everything's available at thankful.ai. And that's pretty consistent across LinkedIn, any of the other places that you might be searching. Our Shopify app should be live here coming very soon, but Shopify is a very big part of our business and our app works great. It's just hidden at the moment.
And so I'll make sure I have that in the show notes for links to all of this stuff. I know you have some really great articles. I've read a few. They're really insightful. Some of the case studies, because they get into the nitty gritty of like why do they choose this platform? What problem were you trying to solve? And then the fact that you solved it, and then what that meant in revenue lift, in the customer experience lift, the efficiency lift of time to be able to do other more meaningful tasks, and let the bot start off at a certain level. And then from there, just get better and better and better based on, so it sounds like over time you certainly get much better based on the case studies that I've had a chance to have a look at. Also, we did talk offline before recording today, and I understand that you would like to, share an offer for those listening today.
Absolutely. So anyone listening today, just mention that you heard the podcast, and we'd like to offer you a pair of Blenders eyewear if you're interested in looking at the Thankful platform. And the reason why is you can actually interact with Thankful when you want to track your order for seeing when your glasses are coming. And as part of that, if you're interested, we'd absolutely would love to do an impact analysis for your store and make sure that we can take a look at your existing customer service flows. And this will be done by our in-house experts who have seen hundreds of brands.
That's great. Thank you so much for offering that. So what we'll do then is I'll have ecommercefastlane.com/thankful. That will be in the show notes. That will redirect you to the Thankful landing page for this offer. I think it's a great idea, actually, to have the Blenders. I never thought about that, about offering a free pair of sunglasses in exchange for, number one, getting some sunglasses, because at least in North America now, things of spring's here. I think this is great for spring and summer. But number two, just really interact with Blenders eyewear directly. Where's my order? And see how Thankful is actually working for real life case studies. I think that's pretty neat. I think the impact analysis is great, because I think maybe Thankful is not for everybody. I mean, it depends on your maturity level and and just kind of where you're at in your business. Some people, there's lots of maybe low-hanging other fruits that I might need to be working on. Hence why I have this podcast, because it just depends on where you're at. But if you're already moving along your journey and there's already sales, but you can see there's a backlog, or you feel that you really want to differentiate yourself in the marketplace by just having this incredible kind of service first, that you guys call it, this service first kind of customer support, then I think Thankful might be a great opportunity to at least have them audit your workflows and your customer service flows and customer experience flows, and going, aha, we believe you're doing it well, but maybe you might want to consider X, Y, and Z, and or maybe with our solution too as an option. So I think that's great. So thank you for offering that. Thanks for jumping on the show today and sharing the Thankful opportunity. I'm really excited for kind of where this is headed, and once again, sharing your knowledge and your vision, and just appreciate you giving back to the Shopify ecosystem.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. What you're doing with E-commerce Fastlane is tremendous. I think it's really helping push the boundaries of what e-commerce is doing. And I've been a Shopify nerd since the beginning. So thank you again for having us.
My pleasure. All right. Have a great day. This episode is brought to you by Yotpo SMS Bump, the leading SMS marketing solution for e-commerce brands looking to build a top revenue channel. Built for compliance, SMS Bump helps you recover carts, launch targeted campaigns, and engage in truly conversational commerce. Join over 90,000 businesses that use SMS Bump to build meaningful relationships with their customers and sell online. So check them out today. Click the link in the show notes, visit the Shopify App Store or ecommercefastlane.com/SMS Bump and see why over 90,000 other brands choose SMS Bump. Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you personally for being a loyal listener of E-commerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company powered by Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.